Hello and welcome. You are listening to Peace News live online at lrm.fm and peacenewsnow.com/live. There you will see a chat room built into the webpage. You'll also see live video of the show being broadcast both on YouTube and at peacenewsnow.com/live. We are a call-in show. You can take control and share your thoughts of peaceful resistance or anything that's going on in the world. This is the call-in number 443-424-8347, or you can send a Skype contact request to Peace News Now, and it will be accepted, and I'll put you on the air. Looking forward to hearing from you. First, we've got some very special guests today. One hero is out of jail. Rich Paul is out off of jail probation in sort of a weird plea deal, sort of post-game prosecution. He was sentenced to jail instead of probation, and now his probation is all over. We're going to hear from him in studio. It's been an exciting day in Keene with his release at 6 a.m. A few people were there to celebrate with cameras, and we went out to breakfast, and then even more people were able to join us for lunch. It's been a whirlwind ride for him ever since he's been out, and I know he's going to be exhausted by the time he gets into studio and by the time he's finished doing all these podcasts throughout Keene, which is, of course, the Liberty Media capital of the world. So we're all going to want to put microphones in front of his face and ask him what his experience was like. Then we'll hear from Ian Freeman, who faces 2 years in jail for a paperwork snafu. Essentially, he could be facing 2 years in a cage for being found guilty of ID crimes. What's the story there, and what is he expecting? We'll hear from him. Plus, tomorrow is a huge day because not only is Ian Freeman facing his sentencing, but the Robin Hooders of Keene are facing their hearing at the Supreme Court. That's tomorrow. Now, they don't need to be in attendance because it's just going to be a couple of lawyers talking back and forth to each other about what they think the Supreme Court should do. But I will be there. I will have a video camera. I'll be live tweeting and reporting on what the Supreme Court thinks about the Robin Hood case because people are following the story internationally. Finally, we'll close up the show talking about Shire sharing and their goal to feed 500 families this Christmas. And Bitcoin Magazine reports from Stone Farm Bed and Breakfast in Fitzwilliam, New Hampshire. Of course, one of the many reasons why they would be interested is because Stone Farm accepts Bitcoin, which is kind of a big deal. Not everyone does that yet, and they're leading the way for bed and breakfasts. So let's get into Rich Paul out of jail, off probation. This is huge. Blog post by Ian Freeman at freekeen.com. Ian writes, Rich Paul is out of jail with the consent of the overburdened with cases probation department and Superior Court Judge John C. Kissinger. Rich recently spent a few extra months in jail in order to no longer have probation when he got out. Though he is still on a suspended sentence. Activists convoyed out and picked him up this morning at 6 a.m., then stopped by Keene Central Square to enjoy a smoke. That's true. I forgot that part. Followed by breakfast downtown. Later today, Rich will have lunch with friends. Raw video of his release is up at FR33 Man TV Raw. That's Freeman TV Raw. Rich is excited to get started expanding NH Jury as an activist and outreach organization. In the photo, Rich can be seen this morning at the Free Streets Project with neighbor Christopher Cantwell. Don't miss Rich speaking at Keenvention 2014 this October 31st through November 2nd. Tickets are available now for $60 USD or Bitcoin Pre-event ticketing is limited to just 100, so don't wait till the day of to buy. Yeah, certainly, I want to second that sentiment because I'm throwing a huge dance party Saturday night, November 1st. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're calling it Halloween. Was originally going to be on Halloween, but due to an unrelated snafu, that just wasn't able to happen. So we're celebrating on November 1st. Come on out. Even if you can't make it for all of Keenvention, still worth coming to the costume party November 1st. It's going to be happening at the ballroom in the Best Western here in Keene. There will be, I won't make my promises. We'll report on it after it happens. Then, before we hear from Rich, let's get a recap on what's happening with Ian, because we'll surely be talking about it. Ian found guilty on ID crimes, facing up to 2 years in prison. Ian writes at freekeen.com, earlier this year, I was surprised by the state police with an arrest for unsworn falsification and prohibitions. Essentially, they were charging me with 2 Class A misdemeanors for filling out their driver's license application incorrectly. As it turns out, had I just filled it out the same way 2 days prior, it would have been completely legal. Despite referring to me as a customer, they treated me like a criminal rather than simply helping me correct the mistake. As any actual business who cares about their customers? They alleged I used a false name, my given name of Ian Bernard, to apply for their license, when I apparently should have used my now legal name of Ian Freeman. And at no point until my arrest was I given any indication that this was illegal. The ladies at the DMV were aware of the use of both of my names and happily processed the application. I attempted to make it clear during the trial that I didn't knowingly use a false name, as I don't consider my given name to be false, nor was I attempting to defraud anyone. No one has claimed I've defrauded them, ever. I honor my word regardless of the name I use. None of that mattered in the decision that came by mail after the trial, which found me guilty on both counts. Sentencing is still to come, but I'm facing as much as 2 years in prison. The last time I was in jail was 2011 for the civil disobedience of blocking a police car when they were attempting to arrest a peaceful woman for drinking alcohol in Central Square. In that case, I was sentenced to 90 days in jail and 9 more months suspended for 2 years. Will Judge Burke decide that these ID crimes, which have no victim, deserve a more serious punishment than civil disobedience? Stay tuned to freekeen.com to find out. Meanwhile, the trial video is all at freekeen.com. You can check out the entire trial. See what you think. Weigh the evidence against that which the state presented. And newsflash, we've got an update on my hearing. Your next hearing date at Keene District Court is set for October 23rd, 2014 at 10 a.m. Wow. Okay, so there we go. I've got a new hearing date. This is, of course, about the concealed carry license. I have appealed the Keene Police's decision to deny my concealed carry license. That's, of course, because it's ridiculous that I would have to ask permission of the local police to put a gun in my pocket. I mean, who owns me? Who owns my body? Who owns the guns that I own? That would be me. So I should have control over those things. I should decide whether or not I can put them in my pocket or on my hip. But of course, the government thinks that it's their place to decide these things, and they've said no, that I'm not a suitable person. I'm appealing that decision, and we'll see what happens. There have been a lot of roadblocks up along the way, and I've been waiting a very long time for this decision. Of course, the court messed up and incorrectly filed their own paperwork, delaying this right even further. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "A right delayed is a right denied." We'll see what the court thinks. Plus, I'm prepared to appeal this all the way to the state Supreme Court if it goes that far. Thanks for following along. If you like this story of those New Hampshire gun rights, you can support that case at gofundme.com/gun rights. This is Peace News.
If you want to move to the Free State and you're looking for some real estate, well, I know a guy who's really great. It's the realtor Mark Warden. Do you want a home with 20 acres, a little any takers for renters, buyers, and sellers too? Mark Warden is the guy for you. PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Sources at the video streaming service Netflix reported today that they had sent local man Shane Fowler a personal message earlier just checking to see if everything was okay after the 31-year-old watched an entire season of the FX program Sons of Anarchy in a single viewing session.
Well, we happened to notice that Shane had been sitting in front of his laptop and had burned through all 13 episodes of the first season of Sons of Anarchy. So we thought maybe we could send him a note and just sort of make sure he was doing all right, or if he needed someone to talk to or something.
Netflix says the message, which Fowler received minutes after he finished viewing the season 1 finale of the motorcycle gang drama, was just a way for the company to see if there was anything they could do for their longtime subscriber.
I mean, we do this stuff all the time. Just last year, Mike Rawlson from Bartlesville, Oklahoma, watched all 4 seasons of The Tudors after his wife left him. We were there for him. We just like to check in on our customers from time to time.
This is the Onion News Network. Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com. Instead of just listening, you can also watch. See Liberty Radio Network's key New Hampshire-based live shows via our studio cam at cam.lrn.fm. Plus, you'll still be able to listen to the Liberty Radio Network via the cam feed in high quality 24/7, even when there's no live show being produced in our Keene studio. But wait, there's more. Our chat room is built into the cam page so you can interact with other listeners online. Listen, watch, and chat, all free at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 70% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteering, there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News. I'm your host, Derek J. You can learn about me at my website, derekj.me. There you'll find blog posts about Bitcoin, peaceful resistance stories of people saying no and standing up to arbitrary authority, plus stories about what I'm doing in life, like building a Free Stater thrift store here in Keene. Very exciting project that's been coming along. I've been documenting it daily and putting videos up online so you can see what's really going on the ground here in Keene. Of course, the best way to find out is to actually visit. come by at Keyinvention. Learn more at keyinvention.info. I want to turn next to one of the exciting things that's happening here in the Shire, which is private charity. A lot of libertarians get flack for being cold-hearted, monopoly, monocle-wearing, I don't know, capitalist fat cats or something. But the truth is, libertarians believe in charity like everyone else. It's just that we believe that it should be voluntary, that an individual, in order to be truly charitable, must voluntarily give that which they donate. It can't be true charity if a person is being coerced into giving. So, to prove that in a stateless society without force on behalf of the state, individuals would come together of their own free will and decide to help out their friends and neighbors in their community. An organization called Shire Sharing feeds families around the Shire area. And this year, you can help Shire Sharing feed 500 families on Thanksgiving. Shire Sharing was founded in 2011 by Free State Project early mover Amanda Bolden. She and other activists come together to feed hundreds of families on Thanksgiving each year. First, they raise thousands of dollars, then put together bags full of food that are customized to the dietary needs of the receiving family, and finally deliver them in time for Thanksgiving. Every year, as the graphic to the right shows, which you can see at freekeen.com, Shire Sharing has delivered more meals than the previous year. Just as an example, in 2001, they fed 52 households. In 2012, that nearly quadrupled to 192 households. Last year, in 2013, Shire Sharing fed 773 households, and this year, you can donate in dollars or Bitcoin to help families in need, the goal being 500 families. So you can click here, what's it got? youcaring.com. Just search Shire Sharing. They can also use help assembling and delivering meals. You can pitch in by joining the Shire Sharing Facebook group. So go ahead and check that out if you're on Facebook. Type in Shire Sharing, like their page, and see what you can do to support private charity here in New Hampshire and where you live. And if you don't already live in New Hampshire, consider joining us. Visit freestateproject.org to learn more about what exciting things the activists here are doing. At freekeen.com, Ian reports about Bitcoin Magazine visiting Stone Farm Bed and Breakfast in Fitzwilliam. Ian writes, run by Liberty activists and Free State Project participants Matt Roach and Katie McCall, Stone Farm on Liberty Acres Bed and Breakfast in Fitzwilliam is a destination for those visiting New Hampshire or someone already here that wants a getaway. They take Bitcoin at Stone Farm, so the folks from Bitcoin Magazine dropped in for a stay. Take a look.
Hi, my name's Matt Roach, and this is Stone Farm. My friend Katie and I found this beautiful Revolutionary War era house in New Hampshire, and it was too big for what we needed, but it was awesome. It's just picturesque and awesome. The Bitcoiners that come through, like they have a place to stay here where they can spend their crypto. You know, it's not just Bitcoin. We'll accept any cryptocurrencies here. The rooms are the Snowden room and the Manning room. And Katie, my partner, chose those names because those are, Edward Snowden and Bradley Manning were two important people to her, and I was somewhat of a fan myself, obviously. And then we had one large room, I call it the Rothbard room. I've always been a gun rights activist, first and foremost, And so when people come here, a lot of times people are new to guns or they've never even touched one in their life or whatever, and I'll take them out shooting, charge them for ammo basically, take them out, give them their first firearms experience. But I can take this.
We will return to what is going on in Keene, but first, a breaking story from the city of Houston.
Influence in American life. A new Pew poll shows 72% say religious influence is on the decline in the U.S., while only 22% think it's increasing. Meanwhile, more people think churches and other houses of worship should express their views on politics. It's up 6 points since the 2010 midterms.
Okay, and why are they talking about that? Why are they asking this question? Well, apparently the city of Houston has issued subpoenas demanding a group of pastors turn over any sermons dealing with homosexuality, gender identity, or Annie Parker, the city's first openly lesbian mayor. And those ministers who fail to comply could be held in contempt of court. Hey, speaking of ministers, we've got one right here in studio.
I'm glad you didn't say speaking of contempt.
Yes, well, it's going to be joined by hero, Rich Paul. I'm wearing my hero shirt today, which features Edward Snowden. But beside me sits another hero. You're fresh out of jail, and you're doing a media whirlwind tour of interviews.
It's true. Okay,
you can use that any way you want. I like it this way. We're adjusting the microphone because Rich has just sat in studio. If you talk like directly into it right there, that should sound good.
Okay, give it to it from the front. I can do that.
So you're just out of jail like hours ago. 6 a.m. is when you got out, and it's been a full day. Here it is, 10:30 p.m. on the East Coast.
Yeah.
How you feeling, man?
Oh, I'm feeling good. I've had a good first day out. I had this is my second radio show that I've done today, and I went out on the square and I smoked some weed and I did the opening act.
We did that together, and
It's
there's
true.
some video. It will all be uploaded. Some of it's already online at Freeman TV Raw. Some will be up at my channel, Derek J Live. I want to ask you some more questions about your jail experience, what you have next planned. This is Peace News. Plus, we'll take your calls, 443-424-8347, or Skype Peace News Now.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this anti-gravity machine, see?
Is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
We just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
Liberty activists around the country are starting to realize politics alone won't set us free. So what will? At Liberty on the Rocks, we believe the answer starts with living your principles, spreading ideas, and connecting with those around you. By starting a Liberty on the Rocks network, you can make a difference by uniting libertarian thinkers. Find out how much fun it is to build your local network from the ground up. Visit libertyontherocks.org today to get started.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's the movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippies! On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you got to keep you and your get intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. Dean and Nima Vadavi.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer. You can get what you need at the same great prices, and LRN gets a cut. Please do your online shopping at shop.lrn.fm.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com.
You love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
Woo! How'd it get so smoky in here? Welcome back. This is Peace News. We're live at LRN.FM and PeaceNewsNow.com. You can interact by tweeting at me. That's Derek JME, or by dialing 443-424-8347. We also take calls on Skype. So looking forward to hearing from you. We're speaking with a special guest in the studio who will return shortly. His name is Rich Paul, and he's been to the Keene Spiritual Retreat, a.k.a. the Cheshire County House of Corrections, for the crimes of selling or possessing cannabis. Yeah, he's a real criminal. He's a horrible, nasty, scary guy, and he's here sitting next to me.
But I'm a smooth criminal.
That's right, the smoothest. And so I want to know, Rich. Everyone wants to know. First of all, what was your experience like in jail, and how many times have you been to this jail in particular?
I don't know how many times I've been in this jail. I would guess 5 now. There have been 2 major ones. One I stayed a year, and one I stayed 6 months. And when I say that, it's actually 2/3. I was sentenced to a year, and I was sentenced to 6 months. But in New Hampshire, you do 2/3 of the sentence, and then they kick you out. So I only actually served 8 months and 4 months, respectively, on those. But those were both kind of a big deal. The 6 months, my choice was after I was acquitted on the violent parts of my violation of probation. I was left with, he's still smoking weed, and I said I'm not going to stop smoking weed.
Your probation
my probation officer
yeah.
said he's not going to stop smoking weed. I know this guy.
And he didn't seem concerned about that either.
No, he wasn't.
He said he wouldn't have even brought charges against you if that's all it was, right?
Exactly. And it was really the accusations from the square that causes those charges to come forward. But basically, I knew that once that had become an issue, it would continue to be an issue. And that's why I said, just give me whatever time you need to give me so you can take me off probation, because I'm sick of this shit. And I'm not going to become a liar for you people and, hide it and lie to you. I'm a grown man. I'm smoking weed because I want to smoke weed. And if anybody doesn't like it, they can pucker up and kiss my ass.
Right on.
Can I say that on?
You can, absolutely.
Groovy.
Power to you, man. Because that's why I came to Keene, was because of people like you who have the spirit of, I'm living free today. I'm not going to wait, because there are some people who might do bad things to me if I live free and live with the choices that I want to make. Like I want to smoke cannabis openly in public, like we did earlier this morning in the Keene Central Square. I mean, I don't want to hide the things that I love about life.
Yeah, and I can't say that there's nothing that I will refrain from doing because it's illegal, because there are some risks that I won't take.
Yeah.
But, smoking weed is non-negotiable. I've agreed not to sell weed in the future, and I'm not going to, because I gave my word that I would not.
So we've both been to the same jail, this Cheshire County House of Corrections, though I don't think ever at the same time exactly.
No, they usually keep us in there one at a time. And even when Graham and I were both in there, they kept us on different blocks.
Oh, man.
They put an automated keep away order, I think, on me to make sure that we would never be on the same block. And that was too bad.
That's funny. Well, everyone in jail always asks, what are you in for?
Yeah.
What did you tell them?
I told him that I was in for, when I was first in pre-trial, I said I'm in for picking up a stick and stopping a riot.
That's true.
Which
is an accurate description of what you're actually in for.
Yeah. And then I said, and the other thing is I'm doing 6 months to terminate, which they all know exactly what that means, terminate probation. And a lot of them have engaged in plea bargains where they've said, okay, we will plead to this violation of probation if I can do a certain amount of time, and then you can terminate my probation. But usually that happens on the third or fourth offense. Judge.
And this was only number 2 for you.
This was number 1.
1.
Yeah.
Because
this was
a
my
violation
one and
of
only
probation.
violation of probation.
Right.
And basically the judge said, I very rarely terminate probation on the first violation, but it's clear that Mr. Paul is not going to do what he's told. So he just gave me 6 months and violated, which he also probably would not have. This is my glass.
This water's for you.
Oh,
yes.
Groovy. May you never thirst.
May you never thirst. And the other question I want to know about...
That's from Robert Heinlein, Stranger in a Strange Land, if you missed the reference.
Which is like, he's like an OG anarchist libertarian type, right?
Yeah, well, it's interesting if you watch his progression through... if you start at the beginning of his writing, which was in the 1930s and 40s, and you follow it through the end of his career, you can watch him go from being kind of a socialist, kind of Keynesian guy, and believing in things like social credit, where, basically if we're going to be printing money anyway, what we should do is just print it out and give it to people. And that is better than printing it out and giving it out through a welfare system, because they would just give it to everybody. Everybody got their social credit payment every month, which was just freshly created money. And it's more or less like the Chicago plan that Milton Friedman came up with.
Did you read a lot of books in jail?
I did. I read a lot of Anne Rice. I really enjoy some Stephen King, but I also...
Those are thrillers.
Yeah.
Or drama.
Yeah, I love vampires, and I love the Gunslinger series, especially by Stephen King, which isn't about vampires, but the Anne Rice was.
And Heinlein is sci-fi?
Heinlein is sci-fi. I didn't have a copy of Stranger in a Strange Land, and it was on my list of things to ask for, but that's a book that I read every 5 years, whether I need it or not.
Tell me some of the other books you read.
Well, I did read a lot of serious stuff. I read a Politically Incorrect Guide to American History, which is a nice Tom Woods book. He's of the Austrian, I guess there's an Austrian school of revisionist history, and it's important historically because he talks about things like what the Constitution really says and why the New Deal violated it.
So what did people say when you told them that you were in jail for 6 to terminate and for picking up a stick to stop a riot?
Well, I mean, people really didn't understand the riot thing, and even the legal system didn't end up accepting that. Once they'd heard my point of view,
that's right. That was dismissed.
Let that go. That was broke. That
So
was
the only thing
defeated.
The only thing you were really charged with is continuing to smoke marijuana while told you were not allowed, and your
not
probation
paying
officer.
the fines.
Well, and your probation officer said that he wouldn't have even brought anything up if not for the
and then the other
charge
thing
that got dropped.
The other thing is they wanted me to go to rehab, and I said no.
Was it hard?
Like Amy Winehouse.
Oh, I got you. Right. Was it hard to not smoke in jail?
No, it was easy not to smoke in jail because I didn't have anything to smoke. If I had, I would have smoked it.
Right. But was it difficult? Would some people say with cannabis, it's not like those other drugs like heroin or something where people have a horrible come down and
I didn't experience withdrawals from marijuana. I experienced withdrawals from cigarettes. And that was somewhat painful. But even that, once your mind becomes resigned to you being in a place where you just can't get any, you pretty much get over it. But then the couple of times when I was out doing county work, which one day working at or a couple days working at the county fairground and a day working in Troy, there were people who came up and gave us cigarettes and we smoked them.
Awesome.
Oh yeah. There was a guy who actually bought us a pack of cigarettes. The guy bought us a pack of cigarettes and a lighter and just said, I've been in jail. I've been doing this. So here's some cigarettes you can keep at the
I don't endorse
job
smoking, but I do endorse private charity. This is Peace News.
Shiny badges on your jacket. Shiny badges.
This is Davi Barker from ShinyBadges.com, and I just want to personally apologize for airing a jingle week after week, month after month, that turned out to be such an infectious brainworm. So to make it up to you, I'm offering a free gift. The next time you make a purchase at ShinyBadges.com, write worms in the transaction comments, and I'll send you something weird.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government waged wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
Did you know you can get news updates about what's happening with the Liberty Radio Network delivered in the way you prefer? You can sign up for our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. Plus, you can stay in the loop by joining our Facebook profile at facebook.lrn.fm or follow us at Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm. It's all free, so sign up now at updates.lrn.fm for news updates delivered to your email box, facebook.lrn.fm to follow our Facebook page, and twitter.lrn.fm to receive our tweets.
Ross Ulbricht was arrested by the FBI in 2013 and charged with victimless crimes in relation to allegedly operating the Bitcoin-based Silk Road black market. He has been in a prison cell awaiting trial ever since. If he did it, he's a hero for making the black market a safer place. If he did not, he's a man wrongfully accused. Either way, if you love freedom and want to end the war on drugs, Ross and his family need your support. You can learn more and help fund his defense at freeross.org. That's freeross.org.
Imagine someone in your community getting in their car, turning on the radio, and hearing the Liberty Radio Network. You can make that vision a reality with your own micro radio station. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how you can put our programs on the air in your area. You can have LRN.FM running around the clock, and you can even add in your own local shows. Building a radio station is simple, but programming isn't. That's where LRN.FM comes in. Learn more at broadcast.lrn.fm. That's broadcast.lrn.fm.
Keenvention is coming up October 31st through November 2nd. Get your tickets now at keenvention.info. Keenvention is your chance to meet dozens of key liberty activists from across the Shire. You can explore the beautiful little city of Keene, discuss various forms of activism with seasoned veterans, attend social events like the costume party. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. This year, James Robin Hood Cleveland, Rick Paul, and Free State Project President Carla Garrick will be keynoting. And we'll have all kinds of panels, including the new Cop Block panel and the new Movers panel hosted by the outlaw Josie Wales. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this October 31st through November 2nd. Only 100 tickets are available in advance, so lock yours in now for just $60 or with Bitcoin. Reserve your tickets now at keenvention.info. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page and event on Facebook. That's keenvention.info.
Listen to LRN.FM on any phone, anytime. 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
Welcome back to Peace News. We're live. Join us at peacenewsnow.com/live. You can see video of the show as well as join in a chat room where there are other listeners asking questions. Questions like, so is Rick Paul going back to jail to finish the sentence, or is it over?
It should be over, and I am off probation.
Excellent.
So it'll be harder for them to send me back in the future.
And how does it feel?
It feels good to be out. You know, there's some uncomfortable adjustments. All of a sudden you start eating reasonable quantities of high quality food, and your guts kind of go, oh my God, I don't know how to deal with this. So,
yeah. That was a similar experience for me as well.
Yeah.
Tell me about breakfast and lunch today.
Well, breakfast I had with a bunch of activists, half a dozen activists, I guess, who came out to the jail and picked me up, and we stopped for a smoke on the town square, and then went and got some nice breakfast and steak and eggs, and it was like, oh wow, a real meal. And then for lunch we went to the Keene buffet, and we had almost 20 activists out, and just had a good meal, and good company, and it was a very good time.
Yeah, I would say that was a great time. I got some video of that, and it was just so good to see you out. It was like you had never left. And I know it's always like that when a person returns from jail. For me, at least, the experience was, even though it felt so long while I was in jail, I felt all of that time. Also, when I came out, it was almost like it had never happened. Like it was in some dream world. I don't know. Do you have a similar experience with that?
Yeah, well, it's a very different reality, and it's got hard borders to it, and I think that's one of the reasons that I don't think about smoking cigarettes very much when I'm in jail, is because, it's such a different world that I don't think of doing the same things in there that I would normally think of doing.
I think of jail sometimes as sort of like another kindergarten. They treat you like a kid. You can't make any important choices about your life while you're in there. But you can do some things that are adult. Like you can write letters and mail people.
Yeah,
you can
of course
work.
they let me do that at summer camp too.
Yeah. Well, did you work at the jail? Sometimes people.
Yeah, I worked in the kitchen, and I did various other jobs, things like building a obstacle course on the fairgrounds.
No way, you built an obstacle course?
Yeah, they were doing it's called a Tough Mudder run.
Oh yeah,
that kind of thing. So
and
we
that's where
built all
people
the
get all kinds of. It's an obstacle
obstacles
course
for
where
them.
people get muddy. The whole thing is mud, right?
Yeah, well, this wasn't as muddy, although there was there part of it they had to swim. So there was definitely some water involved and crawling through.
What was the hardest part of jail?
Just not being around, the people that I care for, and not having people that I could open up to. I mean, it's not a place where you can talk the way I normally do with the people that I'm close to, and so that loss of intimacy is probably the worst thing.
What were your visits like?
Well, it's kind of sparse. I only got like 3 or 4 visits this time around over the course of 4 months, and I think people got used to Rich Paul being in jail, and it just kind of stopped being a novelty that people were responding to, and so that was kind of bad. But I did have some people come out. Joel came out a couple of times from Manchester, and some of the rest of the Rebel Love show came out and gave me some Rebel Love, and Objectivist Girl came out and visited, and Yuri came out with this beautiful Russian girl. Oh, I shouldn't say that on the air, should I?
Oh,
but she was
cool,
and so it was good to have people visit. I really appreciated it.
How did that compare to you say it was sparse visits? It was my experience when I was in jail that people didn't get very many visits in general. How did it compare to some of the other inmates?
I don't know. I really didn't pay much attention to what other people were doing, so I really couldn't make that comparison.
What about mail? Did you mail more than the others?
Somewhat. In the past, I always have, because of mail to jail, I've had big stacks of letters coming in some days, and I was clearly getting a lot more mail than most of the other people. Without mail to jail, the amount of mail coming in really, really fell, and it showed me the value of that service. That a lot of words get delivered to you through mail to jail that wouldn't get delivered in the absence of mail to jail, and I've proved that empirically now. So I really hope that mail to jail will be back up and supported again.
What was the common letter like when people would write to you? What did they say?
Well, it depended. A lot of people wrote to me who didn't know me, and how
did they hear about you?
They'd hear about me from the internet, through Peace News Now, through Free Talk Live,
probably Vice. That Vice article.
Through some people through Vice, and they just send me and mostly it was from libertarians.
Yeah.
So I think it was mostly through the Liberty shows more than Vice that they were hearing about me. But it may be that Vice reached a lot of libertarians who are out there and not really part of the movement. But you would have people write and say, gee, I really feel bad that I'm not out there on the front lines. And my response to that is always, well, they call it the front line in the assumption that there are other lines behind it. And we need those other lines too. You don't want everybody on the front line. You want people who are, out there and sending a donation from time to time. And that requires keeping a job, and that requires not going to jail for long periods of time, and
it's a good point that we all have a role to play.
Yeah. And just writing a letter to an activist who's in jail is in itself activism. It's supporting the people who are maybe doing what you don't want to be doing right now, but you're glad that somebody else is doing it.
Yeah, it is such important work, and so few people do it, because so few people can think to do it. I mean, jail is so isolating. I retweet stuff and repost stuff on Facebook all the time, but I don't often think, let me print this out and send it to someone who's behind bars.
Yeah, and that's actually a great thing to do if you want to write to somebody who's behind bars that you don't know, and he's a libertarian. Find your favorite libertarian news site and print off 100 pages of it and send it to him in a big fat envelope. And that I loved when Sandy sent me copies of the Shire Free News or Shire Liberty News.
Yeah.
I wish I'd gotten that right because I'd like to give them a plug, but maybe we could look on the web and see
Yeah, we
what
can
it
find
is.
it.
But do you know the publication that I mean?
I think Shire Liberty News.
Shire Liberty News?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think, but she was mailing out both back issues and front issues as they were published and mailing them to me. And that was a very helpful thing. And I really appreciated her doing that. And somebody else printed off a couple articles from Wikipedia that I had requested through channels and mailed those to me. And those were very useful to me because I was also working on a theology while I was in there. And almost a way of recasting libertarian thought as a theology. And
did you have any success with that?
Yeah, I did. And I came up with, and this is going to be a project I'm going to be working on that I'm going to call the Church of the Invisible Hand. And basically it follows the deist idea that if there was a God, and it's explicitly agnostic, we don't know if there was a God, but if there was a God, we can assume that he created, because he created a universe of immutable laws, if there's any reflection of his will for us, it's in the expression of those laws. So if you look at, if you want to know how are we going to behave economically or how should we, well, look at the laws of economics. And that's how we should behave. So it's, and the nice thing about that is it makes God disposable because one thing that I've adopted from the deist tradition is the idea that God does not intervene in human affairs. You know, there may be a God, but he's in the closet and he's not interacting right now. We're on our own.
Parting thought, Ian Freeman has a sentencing hearing tomorrow where he could face 2 years in a cage. Any thoughts on that?
Well, that sucks, but I hope to be there.
All right, one hero out, one hero in. I hope not.
Could be.
Thanks for being with us, Rich Paul.
Thanks for having me.
If you're looking for work, it's a process of elimination, and you're trying not to be eliminated. So here's a tip for making the cut, and this might seem subtle, but to the person interviewing you, it's not. There is a world of difference between applicants who convey, "I need a job," and those who simply ooze, "I want to work," especially in these lean times when many you're competing with will seem desperate in "I'll take anything" mode. If you convey specific interest in this job at this company, you will be conspicuous. Thus, the value of going to school on the company you're applying to before the interview. With money and attention so tight now, effective communication skills have never been more important. For more tips for job seekers and everyone else, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The 3 most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. It's my firm belief that the AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented groups. Support all your favorite organizations, but make sure you give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm.
Ladies, with a U.S. divorce rate near 30% in this job market, looks matter. Breast enhancement or reduction, a tummy tuck, or a little lipo can work wonders on you and your confidence. With hospital rates at fractions of U.S. prices, and thanks to the recent Thai coup, unheard of low airfare and jaw-dropping deals on luxury hotel rooms. Provide a little info. Get a quote. Hit us up at AsiaRunLikeHellGuide.com.
More Peace News Now is coming up next, live after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Tuesday, October 14th, 2014. Silver is trading at $17.54 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,237 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $404. Antiwar.com reports in a 274 to 12 vote, the British Parliament overwhelmingly passed a symbolic resolution expressing its support for government recognition of Palestinian statehood. The resolution urges the Cameron government to recognize Palestine as part of an effort to contribute to a two-state solution in the region. The resolution was introduced and heavily pushed by the Labour Party, which has raised speculation that a future Labour Prime Minister might follow through on the recognition, though Cameron is not expected to do so. The vote was angrily condemned by the Israeli embassy as a troubling message to the Palestinians that they can achieve statehood without an advanced Israeli approval. The PLO naturally cheered the move, saying that while it supports talks with Israel, it does not believe the right to self-determination should have to be granted by the Israeli government. Sweden also recognized the state of Palestine earlier this month, which fueled similar outrage from Israel. The move reflects growing EU sentiment towards Palestinian statehood. You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and Numery supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's FANS.fppradio.com. The Associated Press reports, this call may be monitored. You hear it every time you phone your bank about a lost credit card or an unexpected charge. You may realize your bank is recording you, but did you know it could be taking your biometric data too? An Associated Press investigation has found that two of America's biggest retail banks, JP Morgan Chase & Company and Wells Fargo & Company, are quietly recording the biometric details of some callers' voices to weed out fraud. The technology, sometimes called voice printing, is aimed at bad guys rather than legitimate customers, but legal and privacy experts alike still have reservations about the practice. Jay Stanley, an analyst at the American Civil Liberties Union, said, reducing fraud is a good thing, but he warned that we can't anticipate what bright new uses this database will be put to in the future. A recent survey found that more than 65 million people worldwide have had their voice prints taken, and that several banks are in the process of introducing their customers to the technology. Stanley said he understood the anti-fraud argument, but worried about where the technology could lead. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They now take Bitcoin for purchasing precious metals so you can turn your profits into a long-term investment. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing. 800-874-9760. Reuters reports, Hong Kong police made fresh attempts on Tuesday to unblock streets that have been occupied for 2 weeks by pro-democracy protesters, removing more barricades a day after clashes broke out as opponents of the protest movement tried to reclaim roads. Police, criticized for using tear gas and batons in the first 24 hours of the protest, have adopted a more patient approach, counting on protesters to come under public pressure to clear some of the Chinese-controlled city's major arteries. Pro-democracy protesters believed that Monday's clashes, which occurred after police removed some barricades, were coordinated and involved triad criminal groups. They said some police stood by or did not act quickly enough as hundreds of people, some wearing surgical masks and armed with crowbars and cutting tools, dismantled barricades. Students reinforced barricades late on Monday, erecting bamboo scaffolding 4 meters high along one major thoroughfare, while others mixed concrete to pour over the foundation of their roadblocks. On Tuesday, police cleared some barricades from the bustling shopping district of Causeway Bays as protesters remained largely calm, according to a witness. At the main protest site next to government buildings and the business district, scores of police stood guard, surrounded by hundreds of students, some still sleeping. Taxi and truck drivers were among those who tried to dismantle barricades on Monday afternoon, and some have threatened to return if the protesters do not quit by Wednesday. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
House of Representatives Bill 323, the IHOP should stay open all night so we can get some Pancakes Act. This bill was submitted for immediate review very late last night under the provisions of the National Emergency Legislation Act.
Can we turn dim the lights. It's really
HR 323 would, by federal order, require all IHOP restaurants to, quote, remain open 24 hours effective right this minute, even if some manager has to get out of bed and drive down here to start making some pancakes.
Well, we stand by the bill.
Right. We wrote it, apparently.
This bill would also require the federal government pay to build a tram or monorail or whatever connecting the Black Sheep Pub on North Capitol Street to all IHOP restaurants.
I think
in the
we made
city.
some illustrations.
The bill gives the estimated cost of the tram as probably not even that much. You are wasting my time and the time of this committee.
I gotta go.
What? Congressman, this committee is still in session. You can't.
This is the Onion News Network.
Welcome back to Peace News Now. We are live the second hour, Tuesday, October 14th, 2014, broadcasting from Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world. And I'm here with Rich Paul. He's an activist who works on behalf of freeing the weed and the people. And you yourself are recently freed from the cage.
Yes, I'm definitely freer than I was at 5 o'clock this morning. You know, I was locked in a little room, so I like it much better not being locked in a little room.
What time did you typically go to sleep when you were in jail?
Well, I actually had a weird schedule where I would tend to stay up all night and read and then sleep during the day when people were out in the day room making noise because, you know, I found that the noise disturbed my sleep less than it did my reading. And so I would just stay up all night and read. And I was reading like a book a day when I was in there.
Did your roommate have a problem with that, or did you have a cellmate?
Most of the time I didn't have a cellmate. And a lot of that is because I tend to pace when I'm locked in a room, and that drives people absolutely ape shit. And so they I went through several roommates who just, we can't be there with this guy pacing. This is just driving us nuts. And I can understand. I really sympathize. It would drive me crazy if somebody else was doing it. But yeah,
did you get along with everyone in jail?
Not everybody. I mean, there are their share of jackasses in jail, and you know, I'm not going to name any names over the air, but you know, there were people that I got along better than others. I didn't get into any physical altercations, you know.
Were you afraid of that?
Not afraid. I mean, you're a lot safer in jail than you are, you know, in your house selling drugs. So, you know, because, you know, there, you know, there's a camera on you all the time, and you know, people are hesitant to kill you, and they're not particularly intoxicated on horrible, horrible drugs like, you know, meth. Because
but you don't sell meth.
I did not sell meth, but yet I had customers who did meth.
Right. But you sold cannabis.
I sold cannabis
Yeah.
and mushrooms from time to time.
Yeah. But
now some of this wasn't in New Hampshire, by the way.
Right, but
I'll
were
leave that as an exercise for the reader.
But you were totally upfront in court about what you were doing.
Yeah.
And why did you decide to be so honest about it?
Well, because, you know, first of all, I'm a forthright person. I feel physically uncomfortable when I lie, and that has two effects. The first is I don't like it, and the second is I'm not very good at it. So
well, that's fortunate for truth lovers.
Well, yeah, it can be, you know, a difficult situation because, you know, sometimes you're entitled to lie. If the police are going to arrest you for a victimless crime and you have to lie to get out of it, you have every right to do that because you're lying in self-defense. And if you can, you know, punch somebody in the face in self-defense, then surely you can lie to them in self-defense.
Did you work some of your magic on the guards? Were you talking to them about freedom?
I was, some of the guards, some of the inmates, you know, and I made some progress. There, like 3 people read an agorist primer
What is that?
That I lent to them. That's a book by SEK3. It's an introduction to agorists for people who aren't already libertarians.
And how was it received?
Very well, actually. The guy really felt that he learned a lot, and I think it's somebody that will be coming around our movement and showing curiosity about our ideas.
Now, one of the guards in this jail actually decided not only to leave, but to speak at last year's Keenvention. You are keynoting this year's Keenvention. Do you think that any of the guards that you spoke with during your most recent stint could have been convinced to stop hurting people in the form of being a corrections officer?
No, and that's really not a goal necessarily with me when I talk to people, although I spent a lot of time talking to Brian Tan, and I like to think that I'm part of the reason that he came to some of the political conclusions that he did. You know, on the other hand, I would have been better off when I was in jail this time if Brian Tan had still been working there, you know, because he was replaced by somebody who was not a libertarian and was not an anarchist, and therefore didn't say most of these guys don't belong in here, you know.
Is there anything productive to do in jail?
There are things that you can do. Blogging is a good thing. I wrote a lot of blog posts, and it was difficult, unfortunately, for me to get them online, and so I finally started just saving them, and I'll be typing them in the next couple of weeks. You know, I did a number for NH Jury. And
you had some letters to the editor, too.
I wrote some letters to the editor, and I did write some things that did go online. I wrote an article about how to deal with the very real heroin problem that Keene, New Hampshire has, and that the first thing to do is stop lying to people and stop telling them that marijuana is the same as heroin. Because guess what? If you raise people telling them, oh, marijuana and heroin, they're just the same. Well, what you do is you produce people, once they've tried marijuana and found out it's not that bad, they say, well, maybe heroin isn't that bad either. Well, heroin is that bad, is the thing. And you know, it's like the case of the boy who cried wolf. They cry wolf over marijuana, and when they talk about heroin, nobody believes them because they've wasted their credibility on lies. And you know, so stop lying is a good start. Another thing is, if you look at the people who died, like the school teacher who just died, 26-year-old young girl who was apparently very vivacious and an excellent teacher. And she had a heroin problem. She died of an overdose, but she didn't die of an overdose of heroin. She died of an overdose of a drug called fentanyl that some unscrupulous drug dealer sold to her as heroin, and presumably maybe the person who sold it to her directly didn't know. Maybe he got ripped off too. But basically there was a lie in that supply chain. And because the war on drugs and that's why she died, is because she wasn't taking the drug that she thought she was taking. So the war on drugs took that life. And because the war on drugs forces drug dealers to obfuscate their supply chain, you cannot involve them in torts. You can't sue them and say what you sold to me is not what it should have been. You know,
you think that would change the market?
Oh yes, absolutely, because unscrupulous people in any legal market will be driven out by lawsuits. People will sue them. And even in a libertarian society, we expect to have a tort system of some sort.
CVS heroin, if it was the wrong dose, you can bet there would be a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
And it will never happen. You know, if you legalize heroin, Walmart will never... I mean, they make mistakes like everybody else, but Walgreens drugstore is going to very rarely sell you one thing, saying it's another, and if they do it, it'll be an accident. It won't be because they intended to do that, because they would know that it would be economic disaster, and they're greedy.
So were you talking this sort of economic sense to the jail guards while you were in there? Talking about the
I
war
was
on
talking
drugs?
to both the guards and the prisoners about this kind of thing, and and I was getting pretty good response on this, but I didn't go full anarchist on them that much because I wanted to take them one issue at a time.
Well, a lot of these guards are supportive of ending prohibition of marijuana. I want to ask you about that when we come back. This is Peace News Now.
Good. I keep signing up.
I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. So I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
Off the air live. Anything that's fun, we're not allowed to do. It's going to get to the point where we're not even going to be able to take a shit because it feels too nice. They're going to be like, oh, you enjoyed going to the bathroom way too much. We're going to have to regulate how often you do that. We're going to have a time and a place where it's away from the children because we don't want our children to know that this exists. Poop is gross, and they shouldn't find out about poop until they're 18. Would it still be indecent if we were to genetically modify the human body so that nipples had eyelids? Would it be okay for you as a woman to remove the top half of your clothes and go out in public? Because is it just the nipple? Is it just that one part? And if it was covered up by more skin that was the same color as the boob, would it be okay? And then I was thinking this, if you really wanted to genetically modify the body, what you could do is that make sure the nipple only opens up for only people that are above the age of 18, even though when they were babies, they sucked on these things. Off the air live every Thursday and Saturday night at 10, LRN.FM.
If you can't listen to the Liberty Radio Network's internet streams, free satellite channel, or radio affiliates, no worries. You can listen to LRN.FM from any phone, anywhere. Add this number to your phone, 213-493-0309. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The Liberty Radio Network listen lines are locked into our stream 24 hours a day. Call 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
Kay Oliver is part of the Twayambe Women's Group in Jinja, Uganda. She gets old clothes, fixes them up, washes them, and then sells them at the Jinja market. She was quite happy with her success at her business, but realized that a sewing machine would really help her make more money to take care of her 2 kids. Free Talk Live helped her get that sewing machine. You can help us help more people by getting your coffee through coffee.freetalklive.com. Make a difference, 1 cup at a time. Get a free pound, try out the subscription, cancel at any time, coffee.freetalklive.com.
DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phones, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.lrn.fm. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit the Liberty Radio Network when you shop at Amazon via shop.lrn.fm.
Attention. Have you been in a serious automobile accident? Then you need to call our attorneys now. We specialize in helping our clients get compensated for major auto injuries. If you've been in any type of car or motorcycle accident and you've been seriously injured, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation. Our attorneys have recovered millions and millions of dollars for injured clients. There are no out-of-pocket costs to you ever. We only receive a fee when we win your case. We are available 24/7. If you've been in an accident and been seriously injured, make this free call to our attorneys now. Call the Personal Injury Center at 800-648-9173. 800-648-9173. 800-648-9173. That's 800-648-9173. This ad is paid for by participating member law firms. We are not an attorney referral service. Representation may not be
You can interact with other LRN listeners on our message board at forum.lrn.fm. That's forum.lrn.fm.
We're back with Peace News now, and Rich Paul had to step away for just a moment, but he will return to answer your questions about jail. Among them, a question from the chat by Nathan in Texas, who asks about how to send books to inmates. There are different rules about sending books to inmates. I know that when I was in the Cheshire County House of Corrections, a nice woman from Colorado sent me a book that came from a library. She rented out a book about Gandhi, and it was awesome. Brief and not autobiographical. And it had just come from the library. She just checked it out. You're not supposed to do that. Surprise. But you're supposed to, according to this jail, send a book directly from a retailer. So if it were from Amazon.com or even, I think, a publisher applies. So someone like FPP.cc, I think, might even be able to send directly to the jail because they're a publisher. So there are certain ways that you have to send someone packages in jail. There are different rules about it. And by now, all jails have websites, so you can just look it up as per the individual. But for the Keen Spiritual Retreat, it definitely has to come from a place like Amazon. And that's the easiest way to do it. You order it right from those websites, and then you can't mail it directly because they can't just trust any package that comes into a jail. And I can sort of understand that. You know, you can sort of understand where they're coming from. If criminals or criminals' friends are sending them packages in jail, you can understand why some people might want to have them, if not inspected, at least sent from a source that's trusted, like Amazon. And joining us back in studio is Rich Paul, fresh from break, and it's good to have you again.
Freshly watered.
All right, good. So
it's important to water your hippies.
Yeah, my first question for you about the jail experience was, some of these jail guards are members of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP, and they even wear pins to display their support. Tell me about some of their receptiveness to ending prohibition.
Well, I didn't see any LEAP pins, and I didn't inquire as to who was a member of LEAP. I did recommend, I was brought into contact with a police chief in a small town who expressed support for legalizing marijuana. And once I'd given him the argument that, you know, Walmart would, or Walgreens would not sell a deadly substance if they were legally selling heroin, he even said, well, yeah, we could even legalize heroin if you require a doctor to say this person's already an addict, you know. And that, it's not perfect, but it's a lot closer, and it would give them some protection about, they don't want, you know, first-time users to be walking into Walgreens and buying it. But that's a model that's been used in some Scandinavian countries, and it's worked out well. And he got to the point where he said, well, yeah, I would be okay with that much legalization of heroin, which, you know, that's a lot harder to get out of law enforcement because, you know, with marijuana, you can make the argument it's really not that bad, but with heroin, you can't make that argument. And please don't anybody think that I'm advising them to use heroin, because I'm absolutely not. But people who choose to do it should at least be able to buy it in a circumstance where they know what they're buying and it's not killing them.
Here. You want to take some questions from the chat?
Sure.
All right. First,
sorry about the hiccups.
First, we got Rich Paul sounds like a stoner Jeffrey Tucker. All right, that's not really a question. What do you think about that?
Okay. Well, I'm flattered to be put in the same category with Jeffrey Tucker. He's a very impressive guy.
Another that's killed many people. The fentanyl sold as heroin, particularly on the East Coast. Without government, though, people could just do a bad drug deal once to kill someone. What do you think about that?
Okay, well, the segue made me a little uncomfortable because first they were talking about me being a stoner Jeffrey Tucker, and then that's killed many people, and I'm like, wait a minute, where are you getting this? This is frightening me.
Well, it wasn't in that order. There was other chatter in between.
Right. So those two did not segue in between. It's like I had a blooper record when I was a kid, and it had a piece on it where they segued from a news report talking about a pack of wild dogs that had broken loose in North Carolina and gone running through the tobacco fields with a Lucky Strike commercial that opened with the words, "Friend, does your cigarette taste different lately?"
Oh, God.
Yeah, sometimes that kind of thing just happens. But those two things were not related. He was saying that the fact of people buying fentanyl is killing a lot of people. And that is true. Most of these overdoses that we're having among heroin addicts are not heroin. I want to say that anybody who's knowingly substituting fentanyl for heroin, that you're a murderer. That's wrong. That's murder by fraud. And just stop doing it. Take a look at yourself.
Would an anarchist society be a transparent society? I.e., how do you know people aren't still going to scam and replace your drugs with bad stuff?
Well, I mean, people would, there will be unscrupulous operators in any market. In an anarchist society, you would normally, you would make sure that you had recourse. You know, if you couldn't drag somebody into court, then what you do is say, you know, I will not do business with anybody who hasn't done a general submission to arbitration with some company that I respect that will mediate between us if there's a dispute. And then you want to look at what is the financial quality of the people I'm doing business with. Do they have brick and mortar buildings that they own? Are they going to be able to pay you damages if you sue them and win? And that's the sort of thing that you think about when you're doing business with people, because a lot of what they're trading on is their reputation and what kind of assets can be seized by them. And you probably won't actually seize a store if Walgreens sells you, you know, the wrong drugs, but, you know, the fact that they own the store means that they can get the credit to pay you a sizable settlement.
Last question from the chat about your beard. Would you consider changing your facial hair to reflect the bad Quaker or more the Ian Freeman style?
Well, I mean, that sounds kind of derivative. I would, if you want to pitch a hairstyle to me by, you know, showing me a picture, you know, take a Photoshop a new beard on to me, and you know, maybe we should do that as a game. Pin the beard on Rich Paul.
Oh, I love it. Rich Paul, you have a website, don't you?
Well, I blog at freekeen.com, and also find me on Facebook. Look for the 420 Foundation.
Free Press Publications is an independent alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement, and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty. FPP also gives new authors an avenue for publishing freedom-oriented material. FPP brings you daily news and commentary on the website, fpp.cc, as well as a daily 5-minute newscast, FPP Radio News, and weekly news, views, and commentary in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com, and the monthly newspaper, FPP News, at news.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. Find out about giving to our Google AdWords campaign at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covers nearly all of North America. All you need is a view of the southern sky, an affordable receiver, and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you're a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
Keenvention is coming up October 31st through November 2nd. Get your tickets now at keenvention.info. Keenvention is your chance to meet dozens of key liberty activists from across the Shire. You can explore the beautiful little city of Keene, discuss various forms of activism with seasoned veterans, attend social events like the costume party. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. This year, James Robin Hood Cleveland, Rich Paul, and Free State Project President Carla Garrick will be keynoting. And we'll have all kinds of panels, including the new Cop Block panel and the new Movers panel hosted by the outlaw Josie Wales. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this October 31st through November 2nd. Only 100 tickets are available in advance, so lock yours in now for just $60 or with Bitcoin. Reserve your tickets now at keenvention.info. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page and event on Facebook. That's keenvention.info.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Welcome back. We're live. This is Peace News here on LRN.FM. And sitting next to me is, the director of LRN.FM? What exactly is your title?
Technically, I guess I'm the program director of LRN.FM. Hi, I'm Ian Freeman.
Hey, thanks, Ian. And you are going to a hearing tomorrow. And there's something funky with my microphone. I know I've been... I used it earlier for some guests and haven't had time to correct it, but you're going to a hearing tomorrow where you're facing a sentencing.
No, actually, it's Thursday.
Oh, that's Thursday.
Yes.
Okay.
So I had it moved due to the conflict with the Robin Hood hearing, which is tomorrow.
Okay. Well, then maybe we could talk about the Robin Hood hearing first and then your sentencing following, since they're in that consecutive order. You're a part of both hearings because you've been listed in the Robin Hood hearing, but you'll be attending and filming tomorrow.
Correct.
Other Robin Hooders like Kate Ager said she doesn't even want to show up, participate. It's a waste of time. And I can see both sides of that. Why are you going to film it?
Yeah, I just kind of have this hobby, activist project of going to court to record various different people's experiences in court, and so it's just something I do. It's my case. I'm one of the 6 people that's involved in the Robin Hood case, and so I am interested in seeing how Attorney John Meyer performs. He is our awesome free speech loving attorney who's been just amazing so far, and has taken the case pro bono. By the way, we don't have money to pay him, and he's not accepting payment for it just because he's taking the case on principle. He's just that kind of guy, and I expect he's going to do an awesome job. So I want to see it happen, and I want other people to be able to see that happen. So, I mean, I'm going to go and do that. I've got a long history of recording video in courts here across New Hampshire. I won't have to show any kind of permission slip when I go in. They'll know who I am, so it won't be an issue for me to get in there with a video camera.
Why does this case reach people internationally? Why is it getting international attention?
It's really thanks to the city of Keene, who filed the suit back in May of 2013 against 6 Robin Hooders, the people who save folks here in Keene and downtown Keene from getting parking tickets. It was when they filed that lawsuit is when the story blew up. There was one story that came from Megan Pierce, one of the reporters over at the Union Leader, and she wrote a piece about that. And then, the media business is kind of a monkey see, monkey do business to some extent. Somebody saw that story, or more than one somebody's in the media world saw Megan's story, and they said, "Oh, we got to cover this," because it's got that buzzworthy kind of water cooler appeal of people are saving people from parking tickets, and the city's suing them. So that exploded out into this international media story.
Yeah, I really like it because I think it's one of those like family-friendly stories. Like, I have a hard time. I have sisters who are 12 years old, so when I try and talk about freedoms, like I enjoy cannabis, and so I can't really talk about the war on drugs with 12-year-olds, but I can totally talk about a relatable story about parking meters. Not that they have parking, but they know what they are. They know about the meter maids and how the whole system works. They know about tickets. And so I think it could relate to everyone because they can see the benefit. That's the reason why I think that people even in Poland, we saw some of the copycats over in Poland producing videos.
You didn't get to meet them when they came here, right?
I did, yeah.
You did? Oh, you did?
Not only did I meet them here, I met them in Philadelphia. The Polish folks who follow the Free State Project, freestateproject.org, visited me while I was still in exile down in Philadelphia. They were traveling up to visit New Hampshire, and
they were super cool.
Yeah,
super nice.
Yeah, they came through, swung through for an interview. So yeah, I don't know.
Great first video too of the Polish. What was it? What was it? Warsaw?
Yes, it was in Warsaw. I'll link to that video so that folks can have a look at it.
I thought they did a great job with it, especially when they showed the Polish parking enforcer just sitting and kind of slouching on the side of the street because he was sad about what was happening.
So do you think that other people, like in Warsaw, for example, would face consequences, legal consequences for Robin Hooding, or is Keene just especially authoritarian?
Well, in some places, if you rescue another person's parking meter, you'll be arrested for that. I don't know which cities, but larger cities like, I don't know, Philly's one of them, but New York or wherever, they're Boston. I don't know where they are, but larger cities generally have criminalized the filling of other people's meters. So that alone could get you arrested where you live. In New Hampshire, that can't happen. So they haven't arrested us for anything, but they have filed this civil suit, actually 2 civil suits against us. The first one was to create the 30 or what was 50 foot, now a 30 foot requested like a protection zone that floats along with the parking enforcer to protect them from video recording and us speaking to them within that.
Horrible.
Yeah. So you wouldn't be prohibited if they got this zone, which they didn't, at least not yet. And they wanted it as like an initial injunction in the case. They wanted the judge to put that down on us last year, and he refused to do that. Thankfully. So that would actually prevent us from speaking to them within the 50-foot radius. But if I were outside of the 50-foot radius, it apparently would be completely legal under that for me to shout at them, which of course would make it look more like that I was harassing, threatening, and intimidating them from a 50-foot distance. So that's what the big claim is by the city of Keene, is that we're threatening, intimidating, and harassing these employees, and I think that's bunk.
Yeah, because of course they haven't filed charges, which they would gladly do for any activists. They would press charges, for harassment, which is a crime.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, when it's a government employee, saying what you want to that person isn't harassment. So if you, who are not a government employee, if I were saying things to you that were offensive and frustrating to you, and you said, Ian, I don't want you talking to me anymore, and then I continued to do that, that would be criminal harassment. And so really, they don't like what they're being told. They don't like the things that we've said to them. They're not threatening. No one's ever threatened them or intimidated them. Those are ridiculous. And they're not harassing by definition, because harassment, criminal harassment, is a legal term. And if you work for the government, you've got to endure what people say to you.
Yeah.
That's part of their job description, as a matter of fact.
Why did they choose the people that they chose?
What do you mean?
The government people selected 6 Robin Hooders. Kate Ager, you, Pete Eyre is one of them.
Who never has Robin Hooding.
Yeah, he doesn't do Robin Hooding. Garrett and James are known throughout town as Robin Hood. Each of them are sort of called Robin Hood because they're so noticeable and they've been out there doing it or had some major influence on it. But how did they choose the people that they chose?
They just chose who they could identify. There were other Robin Hooders who were active at that time. Jay Freeville is one of them, and they just didn't know who he was. He's just a guy, and they didn't know he hadn't been around long enough. Kate, she's lived here her whole life. She's been involved with Cop Block for a long time. Pete's well known as far as an activist is concerned. Garrett, he's out there constantly on the streets. So they only went out. It was, just convenience.
How much investigative work do you think it would take to identify the Robin Hooders?
Good question. I don't really know, because different Robin Hooders have different levels of involvement in the community. So there's some who are New Hampshire natives who've lived here their whole lives. It would probably be a relatively quick thing to identify those folks. But if you're new to the area and the police have never seen you before, there may be some difficulty there.
Yeah, I ask because, I wonder if the police consider that when they go to trial or when they bring these civil suits against people. They're spending months and tens or maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. But if they could just identify some of these people, like Pete Eyre, who just hasn't done any Robin Hooding, they could save themselves a lot of time. Also, because Pete flummoxed them up on video
that was so
during trial, where this attorney for the city is really trying to trap Pete, and Pete uses the whole half hour as an opportunity to just soapbox about freedom.
That was so great, that clip. And normally when I put trial videos online, I just put the whole 3 hours or whatever. That was so great with Pete. I just had to clip that segment out and make it its own video, because he owned that attorney. That attorney had no idea who he was talking to, had done no research, obviously.
Let's talk about your sentencing, which is coming up Thursday this week, and you're facing 2 years in a state cage. This is Peace News.
On LRN.FM, we talk a lot about alternative currencies. Did you know that now you can buy gold, silver, and other precious metals with Bitcoins? LRN.FM has partnered with Amaji Metals to bring you great prices on beautiful 0.999 fine silver, as well as gold, platinum, and other metals. Check out their selection and pay with Bitcoins or Federal Reserve notes at metal.lrn.fm. That's metal.lrn.fm.
According to attendees of a karaoke night at Charlie's Bar and Grill, a man 30 seconds into singing Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror better get his act together and get it together fast.
He f***ed up from the get-go. Coming in late on that first line singing totally off-key. He needs to shape up and get his head in the game pronto.
Honestly, he needs to get serious right now or get the f*** off the stage. I mean, what does he think this is? Living on a prayer?
Claiming that this is turning into a train wreck, eyewitnesses say they are embarrassed for the man who has missed several key words despite staring at the prompter the entire time.
You know, he could hit every last note for the remainder of the song, and I still don't know if that would be enough to turn this thing around.
Man in the Mirror is the big leagues, so you better show up with your A game.
This is the Onion News Network.
Here's a chance to do a little activism while you're cruising Facebook, Twitter, or Google+. Between the LOL cats, the recipes, the hot girls, and the inspirational sunrise memes, Free Talk Live's posts pass by your newsfeed. Like them, comment. It gives us more exposure. If you don't see our posts, click like at facebook.freetalklive.com and then hover over it to click Get Notifications. It's an easy way to spread the ideas of liberty a bit further. I know you're busy, but you can spare that 1/10 of a calorie it takes to click on something. facebook.freetalklive.com. If there was a place that liberty-minded people had been elected to political positions and were rolling back government, would you move there? If freedom lovers had secured a 20% voting bloc and can veto most bad bills, would you move? Well, the time's come to sign the pledge at freestateproject.org. These things have happened in New Hampshire, and you can join us and help. freestateproject.org. Sign up now at freestateproject.org.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 70% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteering, there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News. I'm in studio in Peace News Now Studios with Ian Freeman of lots of things. Freekeene.com, LRN.fm.
Keenvention.
Keenvention.
Thanks for the plug tonight, by the way. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm really excited about Keenvention. I don't even consider it a plug. I just am talking about it because it's one of the exciting things that's happening here.
Yeah, man, it was fun last year. So hopefully we'll do it again.
I can't wait. I'm really pumped, not only for the dance party, but just for the event itself, like all these people coming together in one place. It's like PorkFest, part of the magic of it is all the people coming together in one physical location.
Sure, but there's a lot of people at PorkFest. You can't meet everybody, which at Keenvention you can.
Yeah,
nice.
It is cool like that. So hey, you might not make it because you're being sentenced on Thursday.
So yeah, I'm being sentenced for these silly ID crimes, which of course have no victim. I filled out a government form, specifically the DMV license application. 48 hours later, if I'd filled it out 48 hours prior to when I did fill it out, it would have been completely legal. But because I did it after I got a legal name change to the name Ian Freeman, and I gave my original name for the purpose, this is a long, involved story, but ultimately the reason I gave my original name was because it would be easier to get the driver's license that I had to get. I was under order by the DMV to get a New Hampshire driver's license. So I figured, I'll kill two birds with one stone. I'll get my name changed, and then I'll get this license. So I went in, I tried to get the license under Ian Freeman. They told me, you need this Social Security paperwork that I didn't know I needed. I'm like, well, screw that. I don't want to deal with Social Security. So I said, well, I'll figure something out and come back. Yeah. Came back the next day and said, look, just give it to me under my given name. Here's my Florida license with that given name on it. I had all the required paperwork, and what turns out, and I didn't realize this till after my trial, but it turns out that the DMV paperwork doesn't say legal name. The judge thought that I had that I knew that I had to give my legal name, and that I didn't. And I said to the judge in my motion to reconsider, which was denied, but I said to the judge, look, wait a minute, here's the DMV's application. It doesn't say legal name. It just says first name, last name. I put in a first name and last name. Had it said legal name, I would have known better than to put Ian Bernard, my given name there. So,
it didn't matter, it seems.
No, the fact that I didn't knowingly commit fraud apparently didn't matter, even though they're supposed to prove in court that I knowingly did those things. I didn't defraud anybody. Nobody accused me of defrauding them, but I'm facing 2 years in prison, and I'll be sentenced on Thursday.
It won't make any sense if you're given any time at all, because it's just a paperwork error.
Yeah,
and
but
it hasn't hurt anyone, and you haven't defrauded anyone. You used your birth name instead of. It's not like you used Daffy Duck or you were trying to defraud someone. Like,
it's so ridiculous. I mean, the whole situation is crazy. And no, it doesn't make sense. But then again, it's legal land, and people are asking me, well, what do you expect? Well, I have no expectation. I have to prepare myself for 2 years in prison. Ultimately, I don't know. They could nail me to the wall. I suspect that the prosecution is going to ask for the maximum. I mean, that's just a speculation on my part, because they didn't offer me a plea deal. Now, one of the haters online was like, oh, he said he didn't get offered a plea deal. That means he wanted to take a plea deal. No, that doesn't mean I wanted to take the plea deal.
Yeah, but that would be an indication,
it.
right? That would be an indication that they are willing to go light on you.
Yeah. And not even on the table. I wouldn't have taken it, whatever it was. I wouldn't have taken the deal. But
it just seems awful. It just seems like not only are they punishing you, they're using really shaky justification to do it.
It's really, I mean, it looks bad for them. And, if anything, to some extent, Judge Burke, in this case, hopefully will be weighing that as, well, what'll this look like if I give him 2 years?
Oh, it's Burke who's sentencing
It'll be
you?
Burke who's sentencing me on Thursday, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so that's right here in Keene. What time?
That's right, bright and early, 8:30.
8:30. Oh man.
Now, if I'm sentenced, if I already been found guilty, so if I'm sentenced to jail time, I could go right then probably to jail. I may be able to negotiate, well, hey, I got this event coming up. I prefer to check into the spiritual retreat on, after the event in a couple weeks, and he may allow that. And
he's
also
been good about that in the past.
Right. And also if if it's too much time, like if it's a couple weeks, okay, no big deal. I'll just go sit it off. But if it's a few months, then I'll probably appeal to a jury trial at that point.
What's the strategy there?
Well, in a jury trial, it's a different situation. In theory, the last time I did the jury trial thing, I got sentenced worse. So even though I beat one of the charges, so the last time when I went to jail for standing in front of the police car, civil disobedience years ago, the judge, the bench trial, I got found guilty on both counts. But at the jury trial, I only got found guilty on one of the two counts. The other one, I got a not guilty.
All right.
So, but it didn't matter because when I was sentenced to 50% worse of a sentence than had I just taken Judge Burke's initial sentence on the first trial. So going to the jury trial didn't help me at all. It just simply delayed matters. But in theory, the jury could find me not guilty on both of those. So it's always a risky thing.
Are there fines involved?
There could be. I mean, they're Class A
$1,000
misdemeanors.
each.
Yeah. So I mean, it could be $2,000 fine, 2 years in jail.
Court fees.
It could be suspended. Yeah. So it could be 24% fine on top of the fine.
Suspended for 5 years.
Yeah.
So, or maybe like they'll really hang it over your head.
I don't know what to expect. I don't know if they can. I don't know if there's like a limit on how long they can suspend a suspended sentence for.
20 years.
Who knows?
They want to make you behave.
I don't know what to expect, and essentially I'm at Judge Burke's mercy on Thursday.
What books should people send you in jail?
You can only have so many at once, so whatever you want me to read, I'll read it. Probably.
Are they better off sending letters to you?
Letters are good. Letters are nice.
There's no mail to jail right now, right?
Mail to jail, the website is unfortunately having technical difficulties, from what I understand, and you can still email mail to jail with your letter, and the operator will print it out and do the usual mail to jail thing, but for whatever reason, sending an email is more complicated than putting something in on a form on a website. So that's why Rich Paul didn't have as much mail to jail while he was in his most recent stay. So clearly, we need more people moving to New Hampshire who can help us with these projects.
Question from the chat. If he goes to jail, is there anything he wants us to send in mail to jail? Anything special?
No.
Like Rich Paul asked for puzzles.
Yeah, that's right. Johnson does gains to jail, which is kind of a cool thing that he set up. So no, I mean, I'm not particularly concerned about that. If you feel inspired to contact me, then please do. Don't feel obligated though.
How many times have you been to this jail?
On the inside of the jail?
Yes.
Because I've been on the outside picking people up and dropping them off countless times.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you been incarcerated in this one building?
There was an overnight once, and there was 58 days for standing in front of the police car, and I think that was it so far. And then I also went for 4 days to the old jail in Westmoreland.
Ah, okay. Yeah. And you say, as far as jails go, it's pretty nice.
Well, that's what I'm told. It's certainly a step up from the old jail. The old jail, there were stories, and I didn't get into this wing of the jail, but during the wintertime, there would be ice forming on the insides of some of the windows at the old jail.
Man.
So the new jail is definitely much nicer. The kitchen's nicer. The old jail, they would feed you the food from the old person's home up the road. The state runs, which is a weird thing in New Hampshire. So like you'd kind of get the leftovers basically, or you'd get the alsos from that. And now they've got their own kitchen in the jail. And I've been in that jail as a kitchen worker, and they've got real food in there. I mean, it's not the best food in the world, but I was cooking real eggs one morning and cooked up 300 eggs for egg sandwiches, which were good.
My last guest, Rich Paul, talked about his experience also working in the jail kitchen. Tell us, how do you prepare for jail?
Well, I think that it's all about, a lot of it, how it goes for you is about your mindset going into it. If you're expecting a scary experience, you're probably going to have that. If you're expecting a spiritual retreat, you're going to be more likely to have that. And I went in with a positive attitude, looking to be as friendly with people as possible, but not to push my viewpoint on anyone. And I had a fine experience where I got along with pretty much everybody in the cell block, and everything was okay for me.
We talked about a conversion of one of the jail guards with Rich Paul, Brian Tan, who Rich says he had a lot of conversations with in jail, and hopes to credit himself with a little bit of the reason why Brian may have started thinking differently about what he was doing.
Yeah, I think Brian would give him credit for that.
Well, he ended up being a keynote speaker at last year's convention. Rich is now a keynote speaker at this year's convention. But Rich says it's not part of his goals to convince anyone or any guards. Would you agree?
Me neither. Yeah, my goal in there is to just get through my time and try to have as positive an experience as possible. If you are just keeping, doing your own thing and not pushing your ideas on people, eventually someone's going to ask you what you think about something, and that's the opening that you need. Don't be pushy. That won't work in jail or in most places in life.
I'll be at your sentencing. I'll be live streaming whatever I can, and I'll be live tweeting. So I wish you the best.
Yeah, I hope to be on again.
All right. Peace News.